everything.
That's so cool. It's something. Actually, I think back on those days. It was some of my happiest days. You know, this is before TV, before anything. I was a guy on a bicycle heading to theater. You know,
because in Chicago, there's the Steppenwolf Theater Company, and they started in a church basement. So anybody, there's no, it's honorable to do theater in any space that you can get. And if it's in a church basement, that's where it is. Exactly.
Yeah. And you make $0 a week. That's totally fine. You know, and you know, I remember those days very fondly. And I lived in Boys Town. I lived like just north of Lincoln Park at Broadway and Belmont.
Oh yeah.
And my brother and his wife live a block away, and you know that area is just full of all kinds of stuff to do. And it was great, man. $335 a month was my rent. You know, and I had a cute little studio.
How long ago was that?
1990. Well, that was 1991, 92, 93, 94.
Dude.
Yeah. We probably crossed paths or something.
How'd you manage that?
Wow.
That's not even. I don't. Never mind.
So, I think that Chicago, like the thing I like about Chicago is that they firmly know that they are the center of the theatrical universe of America. They're like New York. Fuck New York. Like, you know, and they have a point because New York is a for-profit market. In New York, they're doing theater for profit. In Chicago, they're doing theater for art.
For art.
Yeah.
And
Love
it, you know, there's no Broadway, there's no Hollywood. It's just, you know, theater, and they have an audience base, you know, that is loyal, and they fucking come back every year, you know. And you know, it's like I look back and it's like I feel blessed to have worked at various theaters in Chicago. And my first job as an actor in Chicago, I was a reader for other actors at the Goodman Theater. You know, and I was fresh out of college, and I somehow I got on someone's radar, and the casting director from Goodman Theater, Tara Alonso, she called me and she said, I've been hearing, you know, good things about you. Do you want to come in and read for other actors? She says, I'll pay you $100 a week. I was like,
done. Sandwich money.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Subway money too.
They paid me $75 actually.
Ramen Pride.
Was that when Bob Falls was doing it?
Yeah. And Bob's a great guy. Bob, Steve, Bob, and that's how I got started, man. And then I got an agent, and then my first gig was, you know, 53 auditions later, literally 53 auditions later, my first gig was a McDonald's commercial, because McDonald's headquarters is in Illinois.
Yes.
I went in for this commercial, and they told me, well, we don't really have a kind of a script yet, but we can tell you what we're looking for. And basically, he represents McDonald's, and so each month there's a different burger and there's a different look for the guy. So
wow.
So like in January, he's got an afro. In February, he's clean shaven and businessman. In March, he's got dreadlocks. In April, he's bald. Right, which is that's where I'm at now. I'm April. And that was the only guy in the fucking commercial. So I didn't think I got it, but I went in and I did. They said, okay, now do this, now do that, now. And I said, this is an exhausting audition, but I really hope. 3 days later, my agent called me and said, they'd like to check those magic words, they'd like to check your availability. And I was just like, oh. So that basically, to make a long story short, that was how I got started with On Camera. And then that was my demo tape, because I was the only guy in the commercial.
My first job on camera, it was in Chicago, and it was for a anti-chewing tobacco public service.
The PSAs.
Yeah. I have the tape somewhere. So bad, so deliciously bad. Yes. Because we were all supposed to be like '80s rock stars. We were all in like white and the worst Miami Vice shit. It's just really delicious. Just horrible.
It's priceless.
Yeah.
You know, like those first days are priceless. You know, like you can't really. You can't recapture that, but it's like it's part of it.
Oh my God.
And then you had to wear what, 4 patches? I think you said.
I got 3 on right now.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah. I remember in Chicago we were producing, and we rented out the Cafe Voltaire.
Dude. Right on Clark Street.
This was when it was on the east side. They had a huge space.
Yeah.
And I remember the scenic designer brought me into this space because we were scoping to see where we're going to do it. We were doing a Christopher Fry play that takes place in ancient Ephesus in a tomb, Phoenix Too Frequent, and he takes me to this fucking stadium, huge, and I'm like, Greg, we can't film. I don't have enough money for a set in this place. Like, I can't even fit like 8 feet of this. Like, what are you talking about? He's like, just trust me. I got a plan. All you got to do is find me 100 sheets. I'm like, what the fuck are you?
Like bed sheets?
Yeah, he's like, if you find me 100 king size sheets, we're gonna dye them rose marble with some cheap paint. I'm gonna make these huge hoops, and they're gonna be like columns swirling down. And then I'm gonna pleat them on the sides, and he had it all planned out. And so we spent all winter up in the attic of Mrs. Genesis, like hand painting these things.
Yeah.
My knees got cracked, you know. and finally, we're ready, and we were rehearsing, and about a week and a half before we're supposed to open, the dude from Capitol Voltaire says, sorry, we're going to have to cancel your show because we're moving to Clark Street.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And we don't have a space there.
Right.
And we had spent all the money on the rights, we'd spent all the money on costumes and the advertising and everything, and we were, you know, our whole thing was spent. And I said, well, why don't you just show me this new space, and I'll tell you if you have a theater down there. Yeah. And he's like, well, come on down if you want. And I toured it, and he was right. There was nowhere. There was a small space.
It's just a small, tiny space. It's the basement level of the cafe.
And then I said, do you have anything else? Is there any other door that leads anywhere in this place? He goes, well, there's the basement. And I said, show me the basement. And we went down there, and no one had cleaned that place in 30 years. It was dust this thick. Yeah. And I was like, oh, we'll take it. I had no choice. And I remember we had to muck that place out, and there was no drain down there, so we had to carry buckets down into the basement, clean it out.
Serious work.
And then we cleaned it out, and my scenic designer was over the moon because he's like, dude, it takes place in a tomb. We're already in a tomb. It's a tomb. This is perfect. Yeah. So then we opened it. It went really well. Got great reviews. And after 2 weeks, he comes to us again. Says we got to close you down because we got to change the pipes. We need bigger pipes in the walls. And I remember she's my ex-wife now, but it was my wife and I producing with Greg Music, who was the scenic designer. And the guy is like wiping off the glasses at the bar, and he's telling me that he's got to leave. Yeah. And I jumped the bar. Yeah. You fucking son of a bitch! And I remember my wife and Greg pulling me back over the bar. And because the owner's kind of, I don't know, a dick, maybe. and we keep talking because we want a refund or something, and he's not going to give us anything. And then my wife jumps over the bar, and we have to pull her off. And we're just like, don't go to jail. We can't get you out of jail. And they close us down. Yeah,
please don't go to jail.
And so
that sucked though. Yeah. Like the way the guy fucked you over.
Totally. Totally. But I got a story out of it.
Yeah. I mean, it's. I've seen productions at the Café Voltaire. I saw a really kind of weird production of the Scottish play, and they do stuff that's pretty interesting. But I mean, maybe it's better you didn't work there because I think that you probably didn't have all the best features, best people around. I
saw the best Macbeth in Chicago at the Chicago Shakespeare Company. Yeah. The Barbara Gaines. Yeah. She is the shit.
Dude, Barbara's awesome.
She is awesome. Great Macbeth. Yeah. Lady Macbeth wasn't a bitch. Yeah. Macbeth was sexy and powerful. He was a warrior. Yeah. The witches were magical. Exactly. And it was all right. Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
10 minutos. We're sorry.
We're anything that's supernatural.
We're just like this. This is like two actors from Chicago who have just discovered that we're kindred spirits.
Are you really sure you were never in anything together?
Fairly sure.
You know what? I'm going to check IMDb.
Yeah. No. I mean on stage.
I don't.
Really never.
You're about the same age.
Yeah, we would definitely.
I mean, I definitely would.
If you're in a play with someone, you
know.
Yeah. What other things? I remember I was in Rogers Park. I was in a play, Mortal Risk, and I played a prisoner, this guy who was pretending to have multiple personality syndrome, but he didn't really have it. But he was a dick too.
Wow. Yeah.
And in the second act, I get arrested and I'm handcuffed. They have me really handcuffed. Yeah. And the guard is interviewing me. Yeah. And for some reason, we lost the guy who was playing the first guard. And no, he was the original. And this guy was like built, and there was something wrong with him. Uh-huh. And he kept really roughing me up, as opposed to doing the stunts correctly. Uh-huh. And I was the stunt coordinator for it. And I kept giving him notes and trying to get him on task. I was like, you cannot wang me around like that.
Right.
We're going to be doing this for a couple months.
Right.
And we went back and forth. And finally I was like, you were fucking fired if you do that again.
Right.
And that night, dude picks me up out of the chair by my neck and just throws me back in the chair. Next line is mine, right? And I'm just like, small space, people are right there. And I'm just like, the docs are like, is he going to do that again? And I'm like, I'm handcuffed. I can't do anything. Yeah, he was fired. Oh, my God.
I'm surprised you didn't like,
no, to a chair.
I know. No, I mean after, like later that night, like,
no, that dude was huge. I was gonna Oh God, great! I love Chicago.
Yeah, it's a great city.
If I do theater again, I think I would rather go back to Chicago than New York.
I spent actually literally right after college, I went to New York because my buddy had just moved to the Lower East Side, and he said, "Hey, I'm doing it. You can come stay with me and see if you like it."
Yeah.
So I caught the Amtrak train from Detroit all the way to New York, which is 12-hour ride. He picks me up at the train station. It's my first time ever in fucking Manhattan.
Yeah.
Like in the mid '80s. so I went.
I was in Manhattan in the mid-80s.
Yeah.
I went to college in the Manhattan in the mid-80s.
Did you really?
I was in Hell's
Why
Kitchen.
don't you guys keep
Dude, I was on fucking Avenue A between. I was in Avenue A between 12th and 14th Street or somewhere over there. Yeah.
Okay.
And
so
this is like, and I went to just check it out. Wow. I didn't actually move.
Yeah.
And my buddy was like, "You can stay with me." So I stayed with him. Right. This is the fucking apartment that he lived in the minute at that time.
Yeah.
The dude who lived somewhere down the hall, he had like nail spikes in his door, like all over the door, right?
Yeah.
There was
This is it.
some raunchy activity happening underneath, like the bottom floor, and there was a cop who lived in the building too. He always didn't, he was there, but he didn't really do shit. He was there.
Yeah.
And there was this drama happening all the time, and I was like, I love it.
Only when you're young.
Only when you're young do you appreciate this. Yeah. And
Uh-huh.
his apartment was like, as big as these two tables. And he said, "You can sleep over there in the corner and like by the, over there. I'll sleep right here. We're gonna go out and get fucked up later and get some beer and we'll smoke some shit. And that'll be your first night in New York." I was like, I love it.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And we went to see. He was working off Broadway with Jennifer Jason Leigh. So we went. So he said he was doing. He's an actor. He's a wonderful actor. But he ended up. I think his first couple of gigs he was doing set design and set decoration and such. So he said, "I can get you free tickets. Don't worry. Just show up in the theater." So I went. Caught the subway first time up to the upper near the Upper West Side. Got off the subway, went to the theater, and checked the play out. My first play ever in New York, and I just fell in love with it. But it was something that I stayed for a bit, maybe like 2-3 weeks. But my brother was like, "You should really think about checking out Chicago because he and his wife, they had just moved. He said we love it."
Yeah.
So I caught the train from New York to Chicago. And I remember that vividly because the waste pipe in the train was busted. So the whole ride I could smell shit and urine all night. And I got a screaming headache because there's the smell and they couldn't do anything. Yeah. So get to Chicago with this crazy headache, and then my brother picks me up and I stay with him and his wife, and then I go see Other People's Money, that play. Who wrote it? Larry. Someone Google it, please. Yeah. It's called Other People's Money. Anyway, I go see this play and I fall in love with it, and I fall in love with Chicago. Make a long story short, I pick up the Chicago Reader and I look at all the different plays happening in Chicago, and I knew about Steppenwolf.
Yeah.
But there's like 50, 60 other things happening, and I was like, "This is it. I'm going to live here."
Yep.
And the rent was affordable.
Yeah. I saw. There's a reason every time Steppenwolf goes to Broadway, they kick its ass.
Yeah.
Like everyone just goes, "Holy shit, that's how you do theater."
Right.
Oh, for God.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
like I saw a John Olive play, Killers.
Yeah.
That is just burned into my frontal cortex.
Right.
Such an intense play.
Yeah. The last thing I was in New York when they did August Osage County, and I went to see Steppenwolf. On Broadway, like in 2008, and they fucking rocked it.
Yeah.
I mean, they just, like you just said, we forgot how to do theater.
Yeah.
And like
Oh,
it's like this is how you do it.
give a shit.
Yeah.
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 And,
that's the thing. The thing, New York, okay, I'll probably end up ruining this day. Don't interrupt me for saying this, but New York is so prideful.
Right.
We are the center.
Right.
You know?
Right.
And no.
Right.
You know, and whereas like Chicago is scrappy and hungry,
Right.
and I remember, and they make acting choices that are dangerous
Right.
and pure and
Right.
passionate. And
Right.
I went from Chicago to Seattle.
Right. Great city.
Beautiful city.
Seattle.
And a great,
Seattle.
Yeah, right on. But the theater there is a little bit safe. Like I kept doing
Like
choices
Seattle
in
Rep.
rehearsal. Yeah, and I made in rehearsal. I was at the Intimate, and we were doing the Scottish tragedy.
Right.
And I'm playing the killer.
Right.
And I say, hey, I got a great gag, and I just kind of meander on stage, and I don't have the first line, and they have the basket of the baby over there, and I just take my knife. And there's no baby in the basket.
Right.
So and I just go.
That is really good.
And ow! And the director's like, "Oh my, that's horrible! You can't do that." I'm like, "It's horrible. It's great.
Yeah.
We're killing the family." That's.
Right.
They're like, "No. The people will freak out if you do that. You can't do that." I'm like,
Who's this
like
guy?
in Chicago, I would have gotten a little badge or something.
Yeah, it's true. I mean,
if there's any questions, and this probably hurts me more than it hurts anyone else,
Yeah.
ask a question.
Oh, okay.
oh,
Well,
sorry.
Star Trek question.
Star Trek.
I was curious.
Yes.
What was that a big deal? Was that a big thing for you?
Well, okay. First of all, thank you for
yeah.
our bromance happening here. Yeah. And, you know, I mean, seriously, you know, I mean, anyone has been in Chicago is a friend of mine. So I mean, yeah. But getting back to my first job in LA, there's a documentary you can see on Netflix. It's called That Guy
Yeah.
Who Was in That Thing, and it's about, you know, the unsung hero, the character actor, which is what I always consider myself to be. I'm not Denzel Washington. You know, I feel like I can do the work that he has done, but what I am is a guy who, I'm a character actor. I call myself a working stiff actor. I get any script. I don't care if it's leading role or supporting. I do the same process, the same homework, and I show up. I do my work. That's it. So some people become, you know, stars. Some people forge out a career, and I've been blessed in that I've been able to make a living at this for 22 years. So if I'm still alive in 7 years, I'll get my pension and I'll fucking retire and move to Vancouver. Or better yet, Thailand. No.
But how was that like when you?
But my first job, I said all that to say this.
Okay.
My first job ever in Los Angeles, 22 years ago, was Star Trek.
I know that's.
Yeah.
Oh, my
And it was a video game called Klingon
God.
Warrior. You know this?
Yes.
You've done your
But-
homework. Okay.
Well, no, that's the only reason. That's how I knew you.
Okay.
That's why.
Okay, got it. Okay.
didn't know
Klingon. My agent called me. She said, "Look, you don't have a car. I know you're poor. I know you're eating ramen pride every night. Do you want to do a video game?" I was like, "Yeah, sounds cool. What is it? It's Star Trek. Jonathan Frakes is directing it, and it's going to be all about these Klingons." And I was like, "Yes, for Christ's sake, yes."
I still have it.
Yeah. And the game didn't really. We shot it live action, but the game didn't go anywhere. It didn't. Probably
Well,
now with the new
mine-
technology, they can make it really cool with all the effects and such. But it was
But
fun
for
as
its
shit
time,
to
though.
film for its time in
It was
1994 or whatever. It was.
Yeah.
It was really cool, and it put me. It did a really lovely view, and I believe God intervened in this. It put me on the radar of science fiction, starting with Star Trek.
That's the first thing on your IMDb that
Yeah.
I had
Yeah.
like a few years ago, and I was like, "That's why I know."
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, and I was
Yeah.
like, "How did he do that? How?"
Yeah.
Like, because not many people. It's not one of those ones you apply for,
Right,
or
right.
ask for. Video games are not like.
Yeah.
I really want to do this. I don't
Right.
care. I'll do it free.
Right,
It's
right,
not
right.
one of those kind of things.
Right.
So,
I mean,
These days, Kevin Spacey's doing video games.
Yeah. Is he? Right?
Yeah, he did Call of Duty, man.
Did he?
He got paid a lot of money. But yeah, it was
I mean, it's
him.
I mean, there are video game designers who make some really great projects, and I've done a couple of voiceovers for X-Men, stuff like that, and it's I'm not in that world. It's a
Yeah.
cool.
John Malkovich.
John Malkovich.
Just did video
Yeah.
Yeah. Call of Duty.
It's cool stuff.
Yeah.
It was just
Okay.
neat because for me, it was nice to see the character instead of everybody who always says, "Oh, you know, that's Spike," instead of, "No, that's actually
Right.
James Marsters playing Spike. He's a human being."
Right.
But
Right.
if you don't, you know, I guess some people don't see you as that. I mean, obviously they see you as people, but they only identify you as your character. So how do you
Does that
deal
happen
with
with
that? I mean, both of you, how do you
I don't
separate?
think well, I just cut the blonde hair off. It's pretty much. I don't have the accent or anything, so, kind of obvious.
But you've done a lot of other stuff though, but
Yeah.
still, it's I still hear, Spike, and it's like, but wait.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how do you, I mean, now you're known, now you're known as the alpha, the alpha vampire. A lot of people recognize you as that. So how does that?
I'm flattered by it, man. I mean, I flew into Chicago O'Hare for Christmas last year, like December 23rd, and the pilot almost crashed the plane. No, I mean, it was a windy, bumpy flight coming in. It was smooth until the landing, and then he aborted just at the last second, and we were like.
Yeah, I've been on one of those.
Yeah, and everyone's like, whoa, and they go, sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen, I didn't feel good about that particular landing. Try it again.
Yeah, but
And we were just like,
shoving us. Yeah, I know.
it's not time yet. We go in for landing number 2.
Wow.
He said, okay, we're going to try that one more time. And then me and these 2 guys were like, okay, it was really nice knowing you. Seriously, Call my mom. If you survive, call my mom. Tell her I love her. And so we go in for landing 3, and of course it's a perfect landing. And I said, I need a fucking drink. I need 3. I go straight to the bar. I go straight to the bar, and the bartender's like, hey man, you all right? I'm saying, yeah, I'm good, man. Just line them up, baby. Line 'em up. And he goes, aren't you the alpha vampire? And this guy was as big as Mike Tyson, he's just a sweet guy, He's like, man, I fucking love you, and I love the show, and na. And I was like, man, thank you, And it's like when I have those little moments like that, which I'm sure James has had too, it's really touching, And you guys represent probably the big, the predominant base of Supernatural, All these lovely women who watch these 2 handsome guys hunt things in the night. But there are a lot of, I love it that a lot of men watch the show as well. And I know I meet guys all the time who watch Supernatural. Man, that's like my favorite show. So it's I consider that, I value that more than what a critic would say about me. It's because it's what the people say. That I think means the most to me. And
because critics are idiots.
Critics are idiots.
Well, critics I think they have the perspective that is as valuable as any other single person watching the show, which means they're going to disagree with everybody else.
Right.
But they think that it's more important what they say, which I think is kind of funny.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's that whole scene in Birdman. I'm going to close your play. I'm going to close your play. You're not an artist. And I was like, oh my God.
So
I must have known.
I got so angry at that scene.
Oh, dude!
Okay, really? Show me how to act.
Yes.
Go ahead. What do you got? You got a Juliet you can show me?
Yeah.
Show me. If you were a plumber,
yes.
If you're a plumber, you
yes.
say you can't plumb.
Yeah.
It would only be a plumber who would say that.
That's right.
But in theater somehow,
Yeah.
someone who's never been on the board says you're not an actor. Well, show me how to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It was.
Guys,
thank
you
you
so much for what you've done.
Every now and then we run into you. He's a great guy.
That was awesome.